Welcome to the Squared Circle Pit with your host, Rob Pasbani.
Now entering the Squared Circle Pit, the frontman of Islander, Mikey Carvajal. Thank you so much for joining me, fellow rocker who enjoys pro wrestling. Perfect for the show.
Yes. Dude, thank you for having me, bro. I can talk wrestling forever.
Very nice. I love the retro Sting hat. I'm all about it. So, and of course, we're definitely going to talk all about Sting. But I want to know, I want to start from the beginning. What is your earliest wrestling memory?
Oh, man. My earliest wrestling memory would have to be watching a specific match or anything like that. But I remember watching a lot of WCW and WWF with my grandpa. I call him Papa. And yeah, that was, he would do like this while he was watching. I kid you not. Like he would go like, come on, get him. And I remember anytime Ric Flair started beating up the person that he liked, he would always go, "Oh, it's fake. It ain't real." But when his person was winning, it was real. So that was kind of the first time I remember, like, having wrestling on the television. It was always at my grandparents' house.
So you grew up in South Carolina, so that is kind of Ric Flair country.
They call it wrestling country out here in general. So,
so I'm sure. So did your grandpa like go to the matches at the Greensboro Coliseum?
He didn't. In town, we had the Greenville Memorial Coliseum, but he didn't go there either because he was in World War II. He stormed Normandy, and big crowds, loud noises, and stuff like that. It just didn't go well with him after all that. So he was always kind of at home doing his own thing. Understood.
So now, when you were watching Ric Flair, like what era was this? Who was he feuding against?
It was Sting.
Okay. Oh, there we go. So
yeah,
Sting.
It was blonde-haired Sting, Surfer Sting. So it was usually stuff like that. And I remember these glimpses. Like we were definitely, we're in the South, so it was more of WCW territory. I do remember WWF being on the TV. I remember Hulk Hogan, like every kid in the 80s. I remember one time me and my mom, we went in a Walmart on our way up to it was a family trip to New York City because all of our family lived in New York. And we went in Walmart and she said, you can pick 2 toys, because I guess I was probably being annoying and didn't realize it going up to New York. So, because usually it was like 2 toys was not going to happen. So this was like amazing. So she's like, you can pick 2 action figures. I remember I picked a Ghostbuster figure and I picked Hulk Hogan. And when I picked Hulk Hogan, she said, do you know who that is? And I said, yeah, Hulk Hogan. And she's like, how do you know that? And I'm like, I watch wrestling with Grandpa all day. She had no idea. So Hulk Hogan was my first action figure as far as wrestling goes.
That's interesting. See, I grew up in New York, and for me, I didn't really get exposure to WCW. I got like 1 hour a week on like a syndicated show called Worldwide. So it was very hard for me to like really dive into WCW until I was a little older and got cable. But I was all about WWE. So it's interesting how for you, it was almost the opposite experience where you got all the WCW exposure and then like occasional WWF.
I think a lot of that really goes back to, the territories and stuff. I think that culturally it took a second for it to get a lot of other places. So where we were from, I mean, the South, it was WCW, Ric Flair, Arn Anderson, Sting, all that stuff.
So other than Sting, obviously, who were your guys? Who did you like root for? Like who did you connect with the most?
Well, obviously Sting, but outside of him, it was one of my favorites was always Rey Mysterio Jr. I still call him Junior too, because that's how I grew up seeing him. So Rey Mysterio Jr., his matches were just always amazing to me because that style wasn't something I was used to seeing a lot, until the mid to late 90s. So that was amazing. Man, who else? I like the Great Muta. I like Lex Luger, just like all those guys. The Steiner brothers were my favorite tag team at that time. I always liked those guys. Man, just I don't know. I kind of liked a lot of like the good guys, I guess you could say. I liked Hulk Hogan.
Well, you were a
just
kid,
because,
so I mean,
yeah,
you're supposed to like the good guys.
yeah. So I liked all the good guys. I liked the Ultimate Warrior, all the stuff that was geared towards the colorful superstars and stuff. I always thought that was rad.
Yeah, and so then when did you kind of start getting into like rock and metal? When did that
Oh
bug
man,
hit you?
that's actually funny. So I collect action figures still to this day, and at the time it wasn't really about collecting them. I was playing with them, and I was 13 years old. My brother, he was so into, going to shows and stuff already. He was older than me, like 6.5 years older. And one night, POD and Guano Apes came to town, and I was 13. I remember it. I was sitting in the dining room on the floor playing with my wrestling figures at 13 years old. And my brother comes up and goes, "Dude, you're 13." He's like, "You need to come to a show. Like, you can't play with these figures forever." He drugged me to that show. Like, he like made me go. And I fell in love with music that night. I was just like, oh my gosh, like I've got to do this with my like, well, I didn't want to do it with my life yet. There was another show I saw that made me want to do it with my life. But that night I was just like, what have I been missing out on? Like my teen angst, everything I'd been feeling, it made sense all of a sudden with the feelings in that room and like all the stage dives and the pit and everything. I was like, I get it. So a lot of the wrestling stuff slowly started kind of drifting away from me for a while when I started getting into music. And I still liked wrestling, but there was a time period there where it wasn't as cool to like wrestling. And I don't
Which
think
was
a lot
the
of people
what was the time period? What was going on that kind of remember where you were like, oh, I'm not as into this?
1999, WCW number one did start getting like not as good. And I think that had something to do with it. And I wasn't a WWF guy, so it wasn't like I was going to go and switch and like join the other team all of a sudden. So, because Sting was still my guy, and I was like, wherever he goes, I'm going to go over there. But he wasn't even like super duper involved at that time period. But yeah, I guess, like starting to like girls more and stuff. I didn't really think that they wanted to talk about wrestling and whatever. So I think a lot of that just kind of naturally, I didn't tell people I kept the action figures, but I had them.
Well, it's a
So,
good thing you kept them. My mom threw mine away. I still resent her to this day for it.
dude,
I
that
had some
sucks.
good ones. I had some good Hasbro ones. Yeah, for me, 99 was fun because, as a WWF fan, it was really fun to get into. They were just coming into their own. The storylines were really cohesive. But at WCW, it's like they were actively being condescending towards you
Yeah.
as a fan.
Yeah, it was bad. I mean, even the roster at that point wasn't the same. They were starting to kind of try to put people over that it's like they were still trying to rely on the people that they had already put over while pretending to try to put other people over when they weren't really putting them over.
Yeah, so what did you think of like when Vince Russo came in as a loyal WCW guy? This is the WWF guy coming over
Yeah.
and basically saying that this style doesn't work. I'm going to just push my style on this type of wrestling.
Yeah, it was awful. He put and in no way do I mean this bad for WWE because I like again I like the production and everything WWE has is top tier, especially now. It's just crazy. But I didn't like how he took the WWF coat of paint and just slapped it on WCW and thought no one was going to notice. He didn't try anything new or different. It was just like, oh, well, this worked over here, so we're just going to bring it over here. But the WCW crowd was so different and Southern and whatever. It just didn't work. And I think where a lot of fans, parents maybe even were like, WWE is too raunchy at the time. WCW wasn't that. And all of a sudden you had both of them kind of walk in that world. And I don't know, I think it's turned off a lot of the younger fans. But for me personally, I just thought it was lame. Like the matches sucked. Like
Yeah.
everything sucked. Everything was like unbelievable. It was just like nothing cool happening.
There
So
was nothing drawing you to it. I totally get it. And plus, Rock was much cooler, and there was
yeah,
no need to worry about storylines.
yeah.
So,
No,
what
it
was the
was.
second concert? What was the concert that you said where you knew you had to like be in a band?
So I went and saw a band called Ludacris. They later
Oh,
changed their name
nice.
to Norma Jean, but at the time they had a singer named Josh Scoggin who later started the Chariot, and now he has a band called 68. Excuse me. And I went and saw them in a gymnasium at a church, and it was insane. I had never seen anything like that before. Like I had heard some bands like that, but I didn't get it until I saw it live. He went through a basketball goal that night. He like tackled the drums. They were
he's one of the most captivating people to watch live. I feel like I've never seen him put on a boring show.
No, not at all. It's crazy because now he's one of my good friends, but at that time period, it was just some dude on stage where I was like, you're like putting on a magic show, like through this rock and roll. So I went home that night and I was like, I'm going to do this with my life. I'm going to hang upside down for basketball goals. So it was awesome.
Yeah, it makes sense. I'm sure because like the POD show, that was a big production. So it's like you're too removed from that.
Not yet. This was in a small club. This was this was before they had, they didn't even have a gold album yet.
I see. But still, it felt like a bigger vibe than like seeing a show at a gymnasium where you're like, oh, I could do, like, I'm not that far removed from doing this. Like, even though seems a little more attainable to me.
Well,
a little closer to reach, maybe.
I don't know, man. It was still, I'm telling you, this is like POD before the masses found them. They were still a band hustle. They were setting up their own gear, sound checking their
so
own
this
stuff.
was early. Okay. I see.
This was like before before the satellite record and all that kind of stuff. But I just thought the intensity of the POD show was amazing. But when I saw Norma Jean, which was ludicrous at the time, I had never seen people wear the girl pants and throw the guitars through their cabs and like do handstands and again, like go through a basketball goal. It was amazing to me at the time.
It was almost
my teenage
like
brain was like, wow.
Wrestling stunts in a rock show.
Dude, I always tell people, I'm like, dude, I'm a performer in this rock band because I just wanted to be a wrestler. I'm just up there pretending I'm a wrestler. Like when I climb speakers and dive off in the crowd, I'm just like, look, I'm Jeff Hardy for a second.
So what you said you got out of wrestling, what kind of drew you back in? Was it Sting coming to Impact?
Yeah, it was. It was again because he had left for several years, and I didn't dislike wrestling, but he's kind of like represents my football team, so to speak. How people have their team. Like Sting was the team I was on. It wasn't even necessarily a WCW thing all the time. It was just like Sting is amazing. I loved everything about his character. I love the face paint. That's why I think I paint my face on stage to this day. Just because he taught me how to actually, like he showed me like what to use and all that stuff. But he came back to TNA and I still knew that it was kind of like not as good as what WCW was doing. Definitely not as good as what WWE was doing. But it felt like that punk rock mentality again, that kind of like, we're gonna do this. We're gonna try to be, the big guys, but right now we're the underdogs. And I've always loved the underdog story. So like even now, like AEW, I'm like, yeah, we're the underdogs. So I love that story, but I definitely want them to win. But I just think wrestling in general needs competition in order to be good. I think WWE's even stepped up their game since AEW's come around.
Yeah, absolutely. They can't fuck around as much now. They have to be a little on top of their game.
Yeah.
So that's cool. So you got back in with Impact, and then did you get into the indie stuff? Like, would you watch Ring of Honor or any of the New Japan stuff or Lucha? Or you just...
I didn't at the time. I've gone back and caught up on a lot of that stuff now because a lot of the stars that, when I came back, I wanted to see where they came from. So seeing some of their careers before WWE or AEW has been really awesome. Like, I always like the New Japan stuff. I've always liked their style. Kenny Omega, he's incredible, and I know he worked a lot over there, and he can actually speak Japanese fluently.
Yeah,
did you know that? Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Like,
I interviewed him about it, and I was like, "How did you pick up on it?" That's like, that seems so insane to me. And he was like, "Yeah, my advice would be to watch. I watched the daytime soap operas with the subtitles, and that's how I kind of started picking up on like dialogue and the way people say stuff."
That's awesome.
Yeah,
dude, that's so awesome.
Really cool. So it's Kenny Omega. Who are your guys now? Kenny Omega. Who else?
Oh man, I like Hangman Adam Page.
Nice.
I think his finishing move's awesome. I just love his whole vibe. I love the Lucha Bros. Their match that they had, I can't remember what pay-per-view it was, but it was a cage match with the Young Bucks. It was one of my favorite matches of
Oh
all
man, yeah,
time.
it all out, I think.
Yeah, that it was crazy. Man, I love man, obviously Sting. I love Darby Allin. I love what they're doing with him. He feels kind of like that young Sting type character, not just because of
Yeah.
the face paint, but because of his energy and stuff. He feels he feels hungry still, and I like that in a wrestler. Like it feels like I'm watching somebody fight for their spot. And I love MJF for how good he is at being a bad guy. He's so good at being a bad guy.
Yeah, he's fine.
I
He's a
mean,
surprisingly good singer. I'm always stunned about that.
yeah. Dude, he's so yeah, he's so entertaining. Oh man. I can't believe he threw the drink at that kid though.
Yeah, I think like he's still a young guy, so he doesn't
Yeah.
like he's doing it for the lulls.
Yeah.
I had a weird sense of humor. I was with boundaries, I think. So I think he just took it a little too far. But I agree. I think sometimes you got to put the character away. Like
Yeah.
there's
You can't
decency
throw drinks
somewhere.
at kids.
Yeah. Especially, I know he didn't know there was alcohol in it, but that's
Right.
not a pleasant experience for a child.
Right.
All right, well, I've been beating around the bush long enough. I want to know every detail of how you got Sting to appear in your music video because that looked like such a fun shoot.
Oh, it was amazing. It was one of the best days of my life, like top five. Um, so yeah, growing up, I've always, like I've said, I've been a big Sting fan because my grandpa and everything. That was kind of the catalyst for getting me into all that. And I also share the same faith as Sting, and I was just always inspired that through any of his beliefs or whatever, he was just still Sting. It wasn't like he went into wrestling, it was like, I'm gonna be a Christian wrestler or anything like that. It was like, dude, I'm just gonna go be a rad wrestler and like that's it. I'm just gonna love my friends and hang out with my friends the way I always have. And I'm not gonna push things down people's throat or whatever. And that's something I could vibe with. So I just always looked up to him for wrestling and just for being a cool dude, or at least what I hope to be a cool dude. And I hit up his manager. We were on tour with Papa Roach um, and Seether. And we were in, man, I don't remember where we were, but we were staying in a hotel one day, which was very rare for us. But we were staying in a hotel and I was just laying there on the bed and I was like, I'm gonna hit up his manager and see if they still do like the old school thing of like, hey, can I get an autograph sent to me from this person I'm a fan of? And so I emailed his manager. His manager emailed me right back and said, hey, what's your phone number? And I gave it to him. He called me like literally right then. And he was like, what's this about? And I was like, yeah, I'm just a fan. Like I'm nobody. Like I'm just a fan. I'm out here on tour and I'm bored. I'm in this band and I just thought I'd be cool to see if I get an autograph. And he was like, well, what, are you ever going to be in Dallas, Texas? And I was like, we're going to be there in 2 days. He said, how about I just bring him to your show? And I was like, what? Like that's crazy. So he's like, well, I can at least ask him. So that morning I woke up and I had a text message on my phone 2 days later and it just said, hey, it said Sting said he wants to come tonight. So just put us on the guest list. So I put him on the guest list. Sting came to the show. We had already played, which I was really excited about having already played because I was so nervous. I was like, I don't really want him to watch our set because I'm gonna the whole time I'm just gonna be like Sting's over there on stage watching our set. Um, so I was really happy that he showed up later. And I went to the back and handed him his passes. He came through the door and we went in the green room and he just said, what's this about? Literally, he was just like, so what's this about? I was like, dude, I just wanted to get an autograph. I was like, your manager did all this stuff. And um, he was like, well, listen, he's like, yeah, my manager told me a little bit about, you're really inspired by me or whatever. He said, I brought you some of my ring gear. And yeah, he brings me some of his ring gear. He brings me like a DVD, just like random stuff. We talked for about an hour.
Oh
He's sitting
man.
there with his it was him, his manager, and at the time it was his fiance, it's his wife now. And we just talked and afterwards we prayed together and he was like, well, dude, it was really good to meet you. He was like, let me give you my phone number. I feel like we're going to work together sometime. So he just gave me his phone number. And when he left, I'm like, that's all it took. Like I emailed his manager and Sting just came out here and gave me his stuff and like wanted to hang out. And after that, anytime we've played Dallas, we'll hit him up and say, hey, dude, you want to kick it? And he's like, yeah, let's go get sushi or let's go get pancakes. Dude, one time we were at IHOP and he put me in the Scorpion Death Lock at IHOP. Like, that's the cool. I don't have a cooler story than that, just so you know.
That's the coolest story.
Yeah. So I have a video of it too. Like I'm in front of IHOP and Sting just puts me in the Scorpion Deathlock and I'm like laying there tapping out and smiling and everybody's like, that's like happiest Scorpion Deathlock I've ever seen.
Did he cinch it in? Did you feel it?
He started to. He said, if I lean back like this, he said, I could break your back right now. And he leaned back a little bit. I was like, oh, it's a real move. And he was like, yeah. So, yeah, he didn't hurt me, but he definitely showed me where, he could sit on me and make me be like, okay, get up.
That's got to be incredible. Like, you're just there, like, this is your fucking childhood hero, and here you are kicking it with him, as you said. That's got to be wild. That's trip.
Yeah, it's nuts. And I even told him, I was like, dude, I'm nobody. Like, why are you, like, and he was like, dude, we're all just human beings. He's like, I'm not some, oh, yeah. He's like, I'm a successful wrestler. He's like, I'm still just a human being. And I'm like, Sting's the coolest dude I've ever met in my life. So, we always joked around. I was like, man, we need to do a music video with you sometime. He said, if you guys ever do like a ballad, he said, hit me up. We'll do a video together. He's like, I always feel like bands take off when they do their ballads. And I was like, because he knew we were like a heavy band. Well, we ended up doing like a softer song that we wanted to shoot a music video for. And I told the guys, I was like, dude, let's take Sting up on it. Let's just see if he does it. So I hit him up. And I said, hey, would you be in this music video? And he said, send me your ideas. I sent him the ideas. And we set a date. We flew out to Dallas and rented this cool Airbnb. And the Airbnb, and you saw it in the video, it's like all like 80s, 90s, like whatever. It's like, it's super like, I don't know, it's like retro looking. And Sting drove 45 minutes from his house. He brought all his ring gear. Oh, first of all, I'm gonna say this. He didn't charge us for the video. He's like, I'm just doing this because I love you guys. And I thought that was insane because I know that everybody's always hitting me up. They're like, how much did y'all pay him to do it? And I'm like, dude, he did it for absolutely free. It was just a homie hookup. He showed up, dude. He had all of his jackets with him. Like he handed me when he got out of his truck, we were getting stuff handed to us to like go upstairs and like put it up there so we could choose what he was going to wear in the video. He hands me his trunks, like his tights and his jacket from when he won the first world title, the Americans, like the Great American Bash jacket and everything. He hands me all that. He hands us his WrestleMania jacket, some other jackets, and we're walking up the stairs like, what is going on? This is amazing. So we lay all that stuff across the bed. We talk about which version of Sting it's going to be, but then we like use some of the other stuff as props around the house. Like, so if you look close, you can see the jacket hanging up in the background, like in the bathroom and stuff. But yeah, he just goes in the bathroom. He paints his face, puts on his gear, comes back out and is standing in the living room with us. And we're just like, still like just in shock. We're just like, how is this happening? Like, this is crazy. Like, this dude has no reason to have to be out here doing this. Like, this is not something he has to do. And yeah, it was incredible. So shot the video. We went, and, filmed this other scene of the video in like a little, like a convenience store. So we sat there and ate sandwiches with him and just stood around this convenience store. People were driving by, like honking their horn. Nobody like stopped or anything. Like, it wasn't like this crazy thing, but people were just like, there's some guy out there dressed like Sting. I mean, it's really Sting. So yeah. So we just spent the whole day kicking it. And after that, we had this idea. We were like, how about for the video, we like for the whole like marketing or whatever for the video, how about we do like a merch drop? We're like, he'll never do like a merch drop. That's too much. So we called him. We're like, can we do like a collab merch drop? And he's like, yeah, let's do it. And so we were like, do we need to talk to anybody? He was like, no, I own my name and likeness. He was like, so I'll send you an email giving you permission to use my name and likeness on your t-shirts. So next thing I know, he sends us this email and we send him all this cool merch that like all these ideas and he tells us which ones are he likes and stuff. And we do a Islander Sting merch collab for that whole music video drop. And then it gets crazier, bro. He called me like 2 months later and he said, all right, you can't tell anybody this, but I signed a deal with AEW and I'm gonna be debuting like on I think it was like December 2nd or something. And he said, I need a theme song. Could you guys write me a theme song? And I was like, yes. And he was like, I need it in a week. So this was during COVID too, so we couldn't like go get together and just do all this stuff with all these different producers. So we tracked all of our parts in our own houses and sent it to each other. And then we had the producer, Kevin Thrasher. He works with like Blink-182 and stuff now, but he mixed and mastered it. And we sent it, and Tony Khan, he already had this other idea in mind to have Sting have like this Game of Thrones type music and Game of Thrones type entrance with the snow and stuff. So it didn't work out. We were super bummed. We're like, dang, we were like so close to having done Sting's theme song. So after this whole video game got announced, which I still don't know the release date on it, Sting went back to them and was like, hey, can we use this song in the video game? So they were like, yeah. So the song's going to be his alternate entrance music in the video game.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
yeah, super stoked. So pretty cool.
Yeah, I want to mention the song you're talking about is "Crazy Crazy World," and a very appropriate song title. I'm sure you must have been thinking like, "Oh man," like I would have been losing my shit if I'm hanging out with Sting. Like this whole story, I'm losing my shit just hearing you tell the story. So I can only imagine living the story.
Yeah.
And so, like, are all your members of the band wrestling fans, or are some of them fans and some of them like tolerate it? Like, what's the
Um,
vibe?
none like there's one of them, the guitar player, he's not like a fan, but he understands and respects it and he thinks it's entertaining. But my brother, he's a fan. He's our bass player. And the director of that music video, actually, his name's Nathan Mowry. He's a pro wrestler now. But he is one of the guys that did the documentary for Jake the Snake, Resurrection of Jake the
Oh,
Snake,
nice.
as well as a documentary about DDP. And he works with DDP still. And he used to be one of the camera guys at AEW. So he was the one shooting the video that day, and he was still geeking out. He was like, dude, I'm shooting a music video for Sting. He's like, this is crazy. And I'll tell you, okay, interesting little Islander tidbit. Before we did that video, we had done a video called Better Day like years back. And we had to get some wrestlers to star in the video, like local wrestlers to wrestle in the video. So the whole video stars a little guy named Austin Theory.
Oh,
But
wow.
he wasn't like Austin Theory yet. He was still named Austin Theory. Um, but yeah, like it wasn't even anything to promote at the time because it was like he was like, no, I'm just like learning and getting into this and stuff. So
You're
um
a total talent scout.
yeah, we found these guys, man. No. Um, but yeah, that was cool. So we have two videos with pro wrestlers in them. And I'll tell you something else. We shot a video for the song I Want Sushi. We shot this whole scene that we ended up not using because it just didn't gel with the rest of the video. But it was me and DDP riding in a van together singing the song. So yeah, we have that footage still too, but we didn't use it.
So you're friends with Sting and DDP. You're also hanging out with DDP
I'm not friends
now.
with DDP, but I have connections with him. But no, me and Sting, he's actually one of my best friends now, which is crazy. But dude, I'm gonna show you something real quick. This is gonna trip you
Sure.
out. Okay, so I've got this right here. I'm in my little office and I actually have this like all the time sitting right here. So I have two things. So I found this guy online that was getting rid of a bunch of artwork that he had done, and he was this older guy, and he was just clearing stuff out, and he had all of this artwork that he had done because he was the artist for WCW and WWF doing all their t-shirt designs in the 80s and doing all their posters and stuff. So I have this one right here. See,
Whoa,
this is Sting and the Great Muta.
that's crazy. Future Shock. That's
Yeah.
sick.
So I have that, and you can like see the poster online and stuff of like the final version. But I'll show you the craziest thing I probably have out of that stuff. So this one, Okay, this is awesome. This is the Great American Bash
Oh, what?
original print. Like you can pick this up and stuff and like see, and it shows what colors things are supposed to be. But this is the actual file used to print the poster and the VHS and the t-shirts for that event.
That's
So
crazy.
yeah,
That is a get. That is a
yeah,
get. That is a cool thing.
that's one of the grails that I own.
Yeah, that is a holy grail for sure. I have this tiny little Great Muta chest.
Oh, dude, heck yeah. That's awesome. Love it.
That's all I got. I
One
don't really have
time, so there was this running joke about Sting's house not having furniture because um, they were like refurbishing and remodeling his whole house, and he was always like, "Dude, I want you guys to come over to my house." And his wife would be like, "There's no furniture. There's no furniture." And so one day Sting came and he we were eating tacos together in Dallas before one of our shows, and he goes, "Dude, I got you a present." And I'm like, "What? What did you get me?" And he brings me this chair from his last match in WWE.
Oh,
He
yeah,
like
the Night of
signed it and
Champions.
stuff. Yeah.
Whoa.
He said, "This is actually the chair I used for my office chair." He said they sent me a whole bunch of them, but this is the only one I took out of the box. And so my brother just goes, "You don't have any furniture, and you just gave him your like only piece of furniture." Like, so it was funny to us, but yeah.
No, what a kind man. Like he seems like such a very kind soul.
Dude, he's too nice for a person. Like I don't know, he's legit, dude. Like legit, like out of the ring, he is a nice guy.
So what is it like watching these AEW shows? Because I feel like Sting has really had a renaissance in AEW. I came in with no expectations, especially knowing, what happened with the Seth Rollins match, with the neck injury. I just assumed like, oh, he's going to be like, kind of like, I don't want to say, like, yeah, I guess a cheerleader, like a mascot kind of role. I did not expect that he was going to be doing New Jack dives from the balcony onto double tables, and I would be losing, and he would be having like the most exciting spot of the night. When you're watching that stuff, and you know him as like a human, as someone who feels pain, like how are you experiencing those moments?
I get scared. I get really scared just in general. Like if he was, 21, I would be nervous for him, but considering how he's done this for years and he's at the age that he is now and he's doing stuff crazier than he did years ago, like it scares me. And actually the first night it was a few days after so when I saw him get a power bomb, this was before his whole first like match.
That Brian Cage
that
power bomb.
Yeah,
Yes.
that the one that Brian Cage, it was like, bro, like chill out. Like
yeah, I felt that power bomb at home watching it, like, oh, come on.
yeah,
Like,
I texted Sting right after that and I was like, dude, are you okay? Like, because at that point I didn't think he was gonna be taking those kind of bumps. And he's like, I'm good to go. He's like, I'm fine. But then he had the what do they call cinematic match? And he called me after that and he told me that that was harder than any match that he's had. He said that that wore on him because he had to keep doing stuff over and over again like a movie set, and it was all their own stunts. So he said that after that he was like, I don't know if I can do this. And that's when they were like, why don't you just try? Darby was the one that actually told him because he had been coming out to Sting's house because they shipped a ring out to Sting's house to rehearse. And Darby was like, I think you can have normal matches. Like, you don't have to go and take these bumps over and over. Like, the Sting thought the cinematic thing would maybe be easier, but he was in a ton of pain after that and didn't know what he was going to be able to do. And then he was like, okay, I'll try to have a normal match. And the normal match didn't hurt him anywhere near as much as that did. So thankfully he figured that out because now we've had a ton of awesome normal matches with Sting. And yeah, I can't believe still though. I've talked to him a few times about it. I'm like, man, like I know you know your body, but you don't have to do that stuff to entertain us. Like you don't have to dive off of stuff. You've given us years worth of your body through entertainment like that. Like you don't have to do that. And he's like, no, he's like, I wouldn't do it if I didn't think I could. And I don't know, it still scares me.
yeah, it scares me. So I could only
The one that really
only
freaked me out was the entrance ramp dive where he like dove off like Batman. Like,
oh yeah. Also, yeah. he's a wild man.
Yeah.
So I'm curious
crazy.
now, like, are you watching week to week, or do you just keep up with it online? Like, how are you following it now?
If I know for a fact that he's going to have something cool going on, like a match or something, I go and I watch it at my brother's house. I don't have cable or anything like that to watch it. So I go over there and watch it. I keep up with everything that's going on, like online. But if I know Sting's going to be on it, I go and watch it because I have to. I'm like, I have to see what's going on. And he doesn't have many matches left. So I think any of them that we can see live, we're pretty lucky and shouldn't take it for granted.
Yeah, I agree. I actually never saw Sting perform live until like the last 2 years, when I've seen him like 3 or 4 times now, which I feel very fortunate.
Awesome.
Just because, yeah, he would always be like wrestling at the New York shows. And last year I was a lunatic, and I went to 4 of the 5 AEW pay-per-views because I was just like,
awesome.
I'm done. I need to get out of the house. And
Yeah. Yeah, after all the pandemic stuff, I mean,
yeah,
I think everybody felt that. So,
so I was gonna say, like, how do you watch on tour? But I'm guessing on tour you don't really watch. You just kind of keep up with it online and watch clips and stuff like that, right?
on tour, so the last time we were on tour, I still had Sling on my phone. I was still paying. We're in the studio right now, so once we finish this record and we start touring again, I'll probably have to rebuy Sling to keep watching it because I do like watching it live if I have a chance. Um, we'll stop sometimes at like restaurants or something and ask them if they can turn the TV on,
I've been there.
Yeah, so stuff like that. There's been times before, okay, I'll tell you, after the night that Sting was having the match with Seth Rollins where he got hurt, I remember we were standing backstage. Can't remember where we were at, but I remember we were standing backstage and our big like intro was playing already. The lights were down on the stage. I was backstage staring at my phone, watching Sting have the match. Sting gets hurt while we're walking like onto the stage. And like I could tell that it wasn't like a normal hurt. And I'm sitting here watching this happen while walking out on stage in the dark, holding my phone, staring at the screen. Because I was like, I have to watch this. I kept the phone like in my hand for most of the first song, just like watching it. And I told the crowd afterwards, I'm like, I'm just gonna let everybody know Sting just lost his match. And the whole crowd just standing there, and I'm like wearing a Sting shirt and everything. And I'm like, I'm super bummed right now. So I'm gonna need you guys to give it all you got tonight. And everybody's cheering or whatever. And the band was just laughing because it kind of goes along. They were like, it goes along with your character or whatever, dude. Like everybody knows you like wrestling, so it's really funny to see you be like, I'm not missing this match. I'm just gonna hold my phone on stage. Worst timing ever.
I've been there, man. It's hard to focus on life when
Yeah.
when you got wrestling to think about.
Yeah.
I think that's really cool, though, that the rest of your band are cool about it. I've had friends that are cool about it and some that were not so cool about it, which, truth be told, I'm not really friends with those people anymore.
Yeah, I hear you, bro.
So what do you think? I'm curious, what are your thoughts on CM Punk? How do you feel about this whole drama going on and now the news that he might be coming back?
Here's what I think. I think that CM Punk, regardless of I don't know, but regardless of what he said that night during that media scrum, that was true or not true, that wasn't the place to do it. I felt like he disrespected his boss in front of his boss, in front of the world. If I were Tony Khan, I mean, and maybe I would have made the wrong decision, but if I were Tony Khan, I would have taken the title right there and said, "You've just been stripped of the title, and you've also lost your job. Get out of here." Like I would have said that on national television. Like I don't care. Like,
yeah, but Tony Khan can't. Okay, so then what if he responds to it and like starts instigating?
At the same time, I think like there's a lot of paperwork here. I know what contracts are like. There's contracts here,
right?
Who knows what could happen? Maybe he would be sued for messing up CM Punk's character at that moment, or so. I don't know. So all I know is that I don't think CM Punk handled it the right way at all. I don't think that there should have been a brawl backstage afterwards and people attack him or whatever either. I definitely think everybody in that scenario, if you're going to be okay bringing one of them back, you got to bring them all back. Anyways, now that it's all said and done, everything that's happened has happened. It's time to make money.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about as far as the business side. Everybody set aside all of these differences. You're actors on a television show. Now you can make big money together. I mean, if we get a Kenny Omega versus CM Punk match now, the pay-per-view is going to be, the buy rate's going to be huge. So I think that, just make some deals with people, sign some contracts about what they're allowed to do and what's expected and not expected, and do good business, make some money.
Yeah, I totally agree with basically everything that you said. When I was watching that scrum, I was just like, how is Tony Khan letting this go on? Like
Yeah.
cut his mic off. Like, just stop the scrum. Like he didn't even have to do, like, I wouldn't have even done the firing. Like, as someone who can understand the wanting to avoid confrontation in public, he's someone that doesn't want to like argue in front of the reporters. Just stop the press conference. It would have been much easier. Let him go, because from what I heard, like, he said he wasn't mad at the end of it. He was like smiling. He was in a good mood. He just lost his temper once the Bucks stormed in. And whatever happened there, I don't know, but it sounds like a lot of people behaved in a way that they shouldn't have behaved, regardless of who threw the first punch or whatever. Beyond that, I had those opinions in the moment, but I am not an investor in AEW. I have no stock. I have no, I have nothing to gain. I am a wrestling fan. As a fan, I want to see CM Punk. I want to see CM Punk even more now because of this insanity. I understand. Yeah, I understand as a coworker, he might be very hard to deal with, and you probably don't want to deal with. But as a fan, I want to see it.
I totally agree with you, bro. I think that at the end of the day, it's entertainment, and we the fans, we're gonna purchase if they say CM Punk's coming back at this pay-per-view, they don't show him until that pay-per-view. I mean, come on. I mean. It's just
the ratings are going to, just out of curiosity, people who hate CM Punk are going to tune in. People who love CM Punk are going to tune in. And he's one of those guys that really brings in his own fan base. Like, I think part of the reason the ratings are down a little bit is because he's not on TV, and there are people that exclusively watch for CM Punk.
I agree. I totally agree. And I think that, there's money to be made there if he's willing to do business. And as long as, the elite are willing to do business or whatever, which I have my own thoughts on if they should be, running things at all, being, some of the talent. I don't know. That's kind of weird because I
don't know. They are running things anymore. Like, what are they running? They're not. It's not like they have a say in their own storylines. But
yeah, but see, that's even that though. Like when the talent has that, because I remember WCW. That was a lot of the things that started happening. Like Starrcade '97 wouldn't have been the botch that it was if Hogan would have just been like, "Yeah, let's go with the story." So,
I agree, but I don't think they abuse it as much as Hogan does. They
totally agree.
They're
totally
willing.
Agree
if anything, they have the opposite problem. They lose too much. It's like, no, you should win this one. Top Flight shouldn't be beating you right now.
Totally. But as long as they can all agree to do business, I mean, I think they should just do business.
I personally, I feel like if you're bringing Punk back, the first feud has to be against the Elite. But if something was said that, we don't know what happened in there, there could have been something that's so terrible that they can't even, they don't want to be in the same ring. They don't trust each other. Fine. Don't do the feud, but bring him back anyway. Keep them apart. Well, let's make some money.
And if you really want to shake up the whole industry, have them do, I'm not saying copy the NWO, but have Punk come in and have him join the Elite. That would
but they don't want to hang out with him. Then they have to hang out.
I know, but at the end of the day, they're actors in a storyline, and nobody would see that coming. They'd be like, how did they get these guys to agree to do this?
Well, the hot gossip now is that, they're negotiating with him and trying to get it. And I guess Fightful is reporting that they're working on a new primetime show on Saturday nights, and they're trying to do a soft roster split. So he would be kept away from the Elite. And I don't know, but I guess I'll take 2 more hours of primetime AEW. If it's like Dynamite, sure. If it's like Rampage or Dark Elevation. I don't know. I'll tune in.
That's what I'm
here and
scared
there.
about. I feel like anything that's not Dynamite right now is becoming the B show and the C show, and I don't
Yeah,
want
they
them
don't
to
have
do
the
that.
top guys on. Yeah, like even Rampage, I feel is not as fun as it was a year ago. Like just the matches
Yeah.
aren't as relevant. It's always if it's a top guy, they're always against somebody so far down the card that there's no competitiveness to it. There's
Yeah,
no.
it feels like WCW Thunder, and we all saw how that turned out. So let's just not do those things again.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. I hope if they do this new show, it's not what Thunder ended up being. Like, I
Yeah.
hope it's truly like a SmackDown to Raw, where it was kind of like a 1A, 1B type thing. And then Heat was its own thing, like
Right.
that could be Rampage. Sure. That's fine.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree.
So now you're working on this album. Do you guys have like a deadline or like a window when you're hoping to get this out there to the world?
We don't. Um we're actually independent again, and we're super
Oh.
stoked on being independent. Super long story short, actually it's not even long. It took 6 years to put out our follow-up to our sophomore record, and that wasn't our fault. We kept getting like purchased by different record labels and whatnot because they would hear the album. Like Better Noise heard the album when another label owned it and said, "Oh, we're gonna buy that and put that out." And then they bought it, and instead of putting it out, they sent us into the studio with 12 different producers, and they were like, "Hey, like go co-write all these." And I'm like, "So you bought our album because you liked it. Um, you've seen us have radio success in the past, and we've never had co-writes, but all of a sudden you want other people to write our songs." It just didn't make sense to me. It's like I look at the wrestling industry and the music industry, so many parallels. And I'm like, when is wrestling more fun? It's when you don't control what the wrestlers are going to go out on stage and say. And when WWE has everything mapped out to a T, it starts becoming this thing where you're like, it feels produced, but it feels a little too clean cut. I don't feel like the mistakes can happen and the beautiful moments can happen because they're so controlled. And I feel kind of like music's that way. When you take out the edge and take out the dangerous sides of it, you start turning everything into the same product. And long story short, when the pandemic hit, they didn't have budgets really for anybody, especially like the lower bands on the totem pole that weren't, Five Finger Death Punch or whatever. And I think that, they first of all, they shut their offices down and they had everybody working from home, and they told us they didn't have any more money budgeted for the record. So we were like, okay, so we have all these ideas, and we're now being told after these 4.5 years of being on that label and them saying we needed to add songs, they're just going to put the album out the way it was. We're like, well, no, we've written other stuff now. It's been so long. Like the band's tired of the songs because we've heard them so many times, even though the fans haven't. So we got together with a bunch of our friends, Head from Korn, Dan from Zayo, Bruce from Living Sacrifice, HR from Bad Brains, Spencer from Under Oath, Lacey Sturm, Pyro the Hero, AJ from Fire from the Gods, Eric from I Prevail, Sonny from POD. I'm probably forgetting some, but we got together with them and we were like, we're going to make like a hip hop style record and just have all of our friends guest on stuff. So we just went and started asking our friends, hey, could you do a guest vocal here? Could you do this here? And they were like, yeah. So we ended up putting all these songs together with all these guest artists, and we paid for it out of our own pocket. And we ended up putting that out. And then about 3 or 4 months after we released the album last year, I started noticing we weren't getting interviews and publicity and stuff like that. And I hit up the label and said, hey, I would love to, just work with you guys on all this, just any of the publicity stuff. Like we need to be marketing this record. And they said, did nobody tell you guys you were dropped before the album came out? And so we were like, no, nobody told us. So our manager hit up the person that was supposedly supposed to tell us. It was their attorney person at the time. And she said, they never said that. And she said, hey, I don't know what they're talking about. They never said that. She's like, I don't even work there anymore. And so, yeah, we found out we were dropped before our album ever came out, they said we just put the album out to try to make the right decisions for the band, like be good to the band. And we're like,
Oh,
yeah, so and again, so I don't want this to be something either where it's like Better Noise sucks. There was a lot of people there that really cared about us, but at the end of the day, they didn't make all the decisions. So, yeah, I think if anybody had that done to them, they would be like, "What?" Like it'd be like wrestling at WrestleMania, and before your match, you go out there and you're like, "All right, we're gonna have a good match," and then you come back after the match, and Vince McMahon's like, "By the way, we already cut your contract."
yeah,
Like,
seriously.
so
It's fucking
it felt
nuts.
funny. So we weren't upset though about being dropped. We were actually super excited about that because we felt like we weren't in a cage anymore. We felt like we can be ourselves
Yeah.
and write the music that our fans really want to hear. And we were just upset that we were never told, which I think that anybody would be. But now we're going to be crowdfunding this record. We actually we haven't even announced this yet, but we have a documentary that we are going to be releasing. We're going to talk to some different platforms or whoever, like different people, and see if we can get some stuff dropped through them or whatever, like whoever wants to exclusively release this documentary for us. And yeah, we're in the studio right now actually. Like I'm gonna be heading over.
So does this mean also you have a fully completed record that you never released? Or
No,
was
so
that the stuff that you reworked with the guest
we
spots?
we were like, it's taken so long since we put a record out. It had been
Hmm.
6 years at that point. We were like, let's put that record out with the songs that we added. So we dropped a 17 song record,
I
which is
see.
crazy. No interludes or anything. Yeah, so we just added all that to that album. And it's a sick album. I mean, it was and nobody heard it. So,
Hmm. Hmm.
but I will say
It's not easy being human. This is what
it's
we're
not
talking
easy
about.
being human.
Hmm.
Um, which I will say, there were people that showed us a lot of love that we were already friends with, like Sirius XM Octane. They added actually they added like three of the singles, and they did really well over there. And we hit up our friends at Hot Topic, and Hot Topic let us do like a takeover on their Instagram. Um, the people at KNOTFEST were really good to us. The people at Loudwire were really good to us. So there were people that found out what was going on and were like, let us write up something. So we
Cool.
we we try to do, what we could with the people that we knew. And I think that's one thing that's so important, um, is the relationships we've built over the years. It shows itself, number one, in I think the guest appearances that we have on that record, but number two, I think that, we could just call people or email people and then be so quick to say like, yeah, let's work something out. Um, I think relationships are important for a lot of reasons, not just business, but just in general. I think that's how we get a lot of things done in the world. We can't, do things by ourselves, and we always like to look and see what other people have got going on. And again, like even like going back to Sting, like the fact that Sting, he just had hung out with us so much as people, the fact that he didn't even charge us to be in a video, like it's crazy. Like
Yeah.
it's
His
it's
time is pretty
crazy.
valuable. So
Yeah.
that he gave you that's a pretty big gift.
Yeah. So stuff like that, man. I think that we just want to, our whole band, man, our message, we just want to love on people, be good to people. You probably heard me saying earlier, I share the same faith as Sting, and people are like, "Oh, you guys are a Christian band." Well, no, not everybody in the band's a Christian. Not everybody in the band believes in anything. Just so happens the singer of the band has this faith. But the way I look at it is like when you go out to eat and you go to a restaurant to get, let's say, spaghetti, you do you want Christian spaghetti or do you want good spaghetti? Because I would rather just have the good spaghetti. I don't care what the chef in the back believes as long as he's just like, hey, I'm really passionate about making Italian food or whatever. So for me, that's kind of what this band is. We're just trying to make good spaghetti. We're not trying to, you know, shove some message down people's throats or whatever. The only thing we want to do is meet people that love and say, hey, no matter what you believe in, no matter where you're at in your life or whatever, you're a human being. And I believe you deserve your dignity and your honor, to be honored because of that. So that's where we're at as a band. And our new record, we're just excited to crowdfund and do that with the fans this time. And what we've been saying actually in the studio, we've been like, I want the fans to be the record label. The people that have poured into us all these years, the people that buy the music, why aren't they the ones that we're just focused on? Why would it be, these business meetings where we're sitting there going, you know what? I think if you guys added another chorus to that and took out all the screaming out of the bridge, we're like, oh, all the stuff that the crowd would love, we'll take all that out. So we're not going to do that anymore. We're just going to make music for people that love it and just do it because we love it.
That's awesome. So I'm guessing, so you're still working on it, and then you're going to make an announcement shortly on where fans could go to crowdfund and all that. And
correct. Yeah,
start teasing.
Yeah, we haven't announced any of that yet, but I think first we're going to find somebody who wants to release our documentary and go from there, because the documentary kind of shares where we're at.
Well, I'm so glad we got to finally hang out, Mikey. I loved that music video. I was so blown away by it because it seemed like it came out of nowhere. Like, obviously I had no idea how close you were with Sting. So I'm really glad we finally got to sit down and talk about it, and you got to share some fun Sting
honored,
stories.
Bro. I'll be honest. I when I saw what you guys were doing, somebody like tweeted at us about it, and I was like, oh my gosh, if I have to be a part of this. So I didn't know you guys or anything. And then I started looking, and I was just like, they sound like my people.
Yeah, so, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, so we'll definitely be in touch, and we'll have you on Nitro as well. Yes. Watch the show, because there's plenty of fun to have, and it's always fun to go back and watch that stuff. Even now, a lot of the old WCW stuff does not hold up, but a lot of it really does.
I agree. And dude, I would love to, like, who knows, maybe I could hit up Sting or DDP or somebody and see if they want to jump on the show with us at the same time.
That would be insane. That would be crazy. We'll pick a good episode for them to talk about.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, we'll be in touch. And where could people keep up with you on social media?
Just get at us on Instagram, which is Islander. And then anything else. I mean, we're on all of them. All the big dogs.
Do a search.
Everything. Yeah, just Google it. We're there.